Dear racing fans, we've been waiting for you. We've been working, prepping, training, putting together thrilling races, high stakes, favorite traditions, and fresh experiences. From right on the rail to the top of the hill. Whether it's your first meet or your 50th, we can't wait to welcome you back this fall. Love, Keeneland.
And hi again, everybody. Jeremy Plonk from Horse Player Now. Pleasant Tuesday night to you. Those of you checking out the archives on Wednesday, let's get set for week 2 of the Keeneland Fall Meet, shall we? 8-race card on Wednesday. First post just after 1 o'clock. $50,000 carryover in the Toyota Super High 5. The wagering big news for the Saturday card. $50,000 to $44.70. That will go on race number 8. On an 8-race program. We're going to show you in just a moment or two the snapshot of the card and show you where these multi-race wagers begin and what we look at a big overlap situation. When you have an 8-race card at Keeneland with the multi-race wagers like the pick 4 and the pick 5, races 4 and 5 become absolutely paramount in your handicapping. Spend extra time on those if you're going to play the multi-race wagers because they're going to run through everything. We'll show you exactly what I mean in just a moment, but really put your extra emphasis on races 4 and 5 when you're handicapping this Wednesday card. Hey, they got some rain in Lexington during the dark days. I mean, the locals absolutely needed it. Turf course will benefit from it. And I think the main track will as well. 0.55 inches of rain, according to weather.com, passed through Lexington. We should be fine tomorrow. Temperatures are going to drop from what we were seeing in the 80-degree unseasonably warm temperatures. We're going to drop 20 degrees or so on the thermometer. But I think what's going to happen is the main track is going to tighten up a little bit from that little over a half inch of rain that they got in Lexington. Mother Nature finally doing her part that the water trucks tried to keep up with during opening weekend. Now, during opening weekend, huge closures still were not a great deal at Keeneland, but horses were coming from farther off the pace statistically than what we're used to seeing. Take, for instance, the sprint races on the main track. Typically, a horse who wins a sprint race at Keeneland in the fall meet is 1.17 lengths off the lead after the opening half mile of a sprint race. That was 1.77 lengths, so 0.6 of a length, almost 3/4 of a length more farther back on average, winning on the main track. So that doesn't sound like a huge amount, but we're talking about over the course of 15, 20 races, and the difference. There were more horses who were able to stalk and pounce and get by front runners. In fact, it took until the last race on the card on Saturday, race 11, second day of the meet, before we had a wire-to-wire winner. When the Wesley Ward first-time starter ran so big heartily in that finale on Saturday to win wire-to-wire. Now, we did see horses win on the lead or closer to the lead a few times on Sunday's card, so that started to change. I think we're going to see a little bit of a shift with the weather, the cooler temperatures. The track's not going to be as dry and cuppy and is dependent on the water trucks to keep it together. And I think that's going to produce a little bit faster surface. A faster surface is less tiring, and a less tiring surface tends to favor horses who have early speed. It's all kind of a natural cycle in that respect. So I'm assuming we're going to see a little bit more front-running speed here to start off week 2 than what we saw during opening weekend at Keeneland. For those of you following the Keeneland races over the weekend, you knew what a big weekend it was for Todd Pletcher. Multiple stakes wins. He won 5 of 8 races that he entered a horse in over the weekend. Huge for Pletcher. Ted Nafi, the biggest of those, I would say, with his victory in the Breeders' Futurity. He now goes to Del Mar, health permitting, knock on wood, that Ted Nafi goes as probably the favorite in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile now to the West Coast. Big weekend for Pletcher. Also a huge week for Brendan Walsh. He won with 5 of 11 starters, added a couple second-place finishes as well. Multiple stakes winners for Brendan Walsh. He did well with Tyler Gaffleone. He did really good with Frankie Dettori. We'll keep an eye on those connections, considering that Walsh only had 1 starter on the Saturday card. He went 5 for 10 the rest of the week. He was absolutely on point. Wesley Ward won 4 of 11. He's off to a good start. Riley Mott won with 2 of 4 starters. He's off to a quick start with limited starters, a couple to keep an eye on. Now, if I would have given you the option, you get to pick these 5 trainers opening weekend. You get Kenny McPeak, Chad Brown, Mike Maker, Mark Cassey, and Cherie DeVoe. Would you have taken 0 for 39? That's what they were combined, which is almost incredible for a Fall Stars weekend at Keeneland. For those 5 power barns and successful barns here at Keeneland to go 0 for 39. That has to shift at some point in time. They're not going to stay ice cold. But sometimes what we see here at Keeneland is a slow start to a meet kind of continues, and a fast start to a meet continues as well at these boutique short meets. Remember, 17 days of racing. Get hot, stay hot, start cold, stay cold sometimes. Let's keep an eye on that. But again, to repeat, Cherie DeVoe, 0 for 12. Mark Cassey, 0 for 7. Kenny McPeak, 0 for 8. Chad Brown, 0 for 6. Mike Maker, 0 for 6. If a lot of connections were 0 for 6 at Keeneland, you wouldn't even mention it. But when it's those 5 names that have struggled opening weekend, it is something to kind of keep note of as we go through the handicapping. Now, as for the wagering opening weekend, I had 3 winners each day. That's the good news. The bad news, none of them paid anything. I did not have a good weekend trying to get some prices home. We hope to be able to pull that off this week. Favorites won 16 of 31 races opening week. That's an extremely high percentage, over 50%, obviously at 16 for 31. But what's also interesting is 6 of the 31 winners paid 10 to 1 or more. And while that doesn't sound like a huge number, generally speaking in horse racing, 10 to 1 shots or more are going to win about 10% of the races. So with 31 races run opening weekend, we should have saw 3 winners at 10 to 1 or more, and that would have been about on par. On a 10 race card, 1 out of 10 goes to a horse 10 to 1 or higher. On average, you'll have days when chaos ensues. You'll have days when chalk ensues, but over time. So we actually had twice the amount of 10 to 1 winners than you statistically probably should have opening weekend, which tells you there were some chances to get some prices, and they weren't horses that were just impossible. Of those 6 winners, 10 to 1 or more, they were all between 10 and 18 to 1. So it wasn't like you were out there fishing for 40 to 1 shots that are very difficult to come up with. I didn't come up with any of the 6 that paid good numbers. I need to do better this week in trying to find some of those. Hopefully you will as well. Week 2 at Keeneland features 3 stakes races. The Sycamore Stakes on Friday, the Queen Elizabeth II Challenge Cup on Saturday, the last Grade 1 stakes of the meet, and then on Sunday, the Grade 2 Franklin for the Filly and Mare Turf Sprinters. That gets you caught up to where we're at right now. Saratoga Shippers pulled off 9 wins on Fall Stars weekend. That'll start to dissipate as we get further into the meet, and we're not so stakes heavy as we were at the beginning of the meet. 8 winners from Kentucky Downs opening weekend, so 1 less than Saratoga. Surprise, only 2 from Churchill September meet. But remember, this is the one that butts right up against the start of the meet here at Churchill Down or at Keeneland. So as we get farther into the meet, the horses who ran during the Churchill September meet have now get into their form cycle of 3 weeks since their last race, 4 weeks since their last race, 5 weeks since their last race, and can catch the back end. I would be very surprised if the Churchill horses don't start winning with a little more frequency, but you can kind of understand with that short Churchill meet, the start of the Keeneland meet, why they would get off to a slow start. I wouldn't abandon the Churchill Downs horses. I would just think that naturally with spacing between races, they're going to start to do a little bit better here as we get into weeks 2, 3, and then finally week number 4. All right, enough talking. Let's get to some handicapping. 8 races on the card for Saturday. Here is the way it lines up on the snapshot of the program. 8 races at Keeneland. We don't take anything off when it comes to pick 5s and pick 4s. They just overlap. The early pick 5 will be races 1 through 5. The early pick 4, races 2 through 5. Pick 6, no carryover in the $1 pick 6. That begins in race number 3. It's also the first of my 3 key plays, which will be on races 3, 6, and 8. The late pick 5 is going to start in race number 4. So race number 4 is going to be part of the early pick 5, the late pick 5, and the early pick 4. 3 sequences, including the pick 6, which will be 4, run through race number 4. If that's not enough, race number 5's got everything. Race number 5 starts the late pick 4. It's also part of the early pick 4, races 2 through 5, the early pick 5, and of course the late pick 5 second leg. So race number 5, everything runs through there. If you have no opinion in race number 5, it's going to be a spread race for you in a lot of different wagers. If you can focus and find a horse you love in race number 5, it becomes a much more attractive sequence of multi-race wagers to bet. As I mentioned, my key plays include races 6 and 8. The Toyota Super High 5 will be race number 8, as it is the final race on the card each day. Carryover $50,224. $1 wager, hit the top 5 finishers in order. Anytime you've got carryover money in a pot, that's dead money that can't beat you and means that you're going to get more on the payoff than you would on a normal day. So always good to look at a potential carryover at Keeneland or anywhere else. Again, carryover money is money in the pool that can't beat you. You're not betting against that money. Just the winners are going to divvy up that 50,000 plus in whatever percentage of number of people who hit. the Super High Five, or whichever carryover pool that you're playing. So carryovers are always a plus for the horse player. Now, if you don't have an opinion, you don't go chasing a carryover. If you can get an opinion and formulate one in a race like that, then it's worth going in. But it's always about confidence and playing to your opinions, and then the carryovers kind of emphasize it. If you want to play that Super High Five carryover, do your extra work on race 8 on this particular card. I've got it as a key play. We'll talk about that when we get to it in race number 8. Now, there was no Keeneland Super High Five on the schedule. That's because they're not going to offer one on this Wednesday card. On Wednesday, there are only 2 turf races scheduled, so there is no Keeneland Turf Pick 3 offered on Wednesday. Let's get to the opener now, shall we? Race number 1, as we go to the Keeneland Handicappers Consensus Box. You can download this yourself at Keeneland.com. Get the handicapping stylings of Scott Hazelton, Tom Leach, myself, and Kim Nelson. As we go into race number 1, I'm taking number 1 in here, Cool Andy. Cool Andy, we don't have to get far into the program to find the top horse on the top page of the first race. Non-winners of 2 lifetime in here in Claiming Company. Cool Andy comes off a win last time at Churchill Downs. The Churchill preppers have done really well in these non-winners of 2 lifetime. So again, while the Churchill horses didn't win much opening week here, with all the stakes races and the big allowances and such, there are a lot of conditions showing up here in the next 2 days that I've handicapped so far on Wednesday and Thursday, where the Churchill horses historically have done exceptionally well. Cool Andy comes off a win at Churchill last time. The other reason I like this horse, Practical Joke, the sire, gets more than 20% winners here over the main track. You get a top jock like Luis Saez with an inside advantage at a mile and a 16th here. A really good draw. Give me the 1, Cool Andy, in here. That's going to start me off with an 8-1 top choice in race number 1. Handsome Pants, the 4, top choice in here for both Tom and Kim. Handsome Pants at 4-1 in the morning line. Kenny McPeak, the trainer, comes off a cold opening week. We'll see if he heats things up. Blinkers off, first time gelding, making a lot of wholesale changes. Now, one thing I do like about Handsome Pants, this horse won a maiden special back in the September 2024 meet at Churchill Downs. In a non-winners of 2 lifetime, when you're handicapping Keeneland or you're handicapping Beulah Park on a Tuesday, in a non-winners of 2 lifetime, that simply means to be eligible to run in this race, you could only have won 1 race in your life. If you won 2, you can't run. So look at the horses and their maiden wins. Who has the best maiden win on paper? A maiden special weight at Churchill Downs is an awfully good maiden win to have on your resume. Handsome Pants has that, especially at this 40,000 non-winner of 2 conditions. So Handsome Pants, top choice in there for Kim and for Tom. Give that one a long look. I've got it 1-8-2, though, in race number 1. We'll get things started off with that. The 8 Protective, second choice in the morning line, a horse who has a maiden special weight win at Saratoga. So if you talk about who has the best maiden win in this field, it is the Saratoga Maiden Breaker for Protective that came last summer. Best non-winner of 2 in the field. And Protective last time out ran 5th at the Spa behind Tap Into This, who came back here and already won last week. So Protective, the 8's probably the most logical winner in this particular spot, but I like the inside draw. I like the Practical Joke pedigree. Give me Luis Saez, and I think we're just going to get flat out a better price, 8-1 on Cool Andy, whereas the outside runner in here, Protective, is 2-1. So give me the price. I know we're kind of going up against it a little bit, but I've got it 1-8 in race number 1, and honestly, I wouldn't go any deeper than that. I'd keep it at 1-8, going too deep for me personally in race number 1. Let's go to the second race on the card as we get into the early pick 4. Now, again, early pick 4 will be races 2 through 5. This is a maiden claimer for 3-year-olds and up, the Elder Maiden Claimers. We've seen 32 favorites win in 102 type races like this in the past at 6 furlongs. So they win right around 32%, which is a little bit less than average, which means you can get a fair price in these kind of races. Typically, average win price is 6-1 in these particular kind of spots. First-time starters only have 17 wins amongst the 102. So when you're looking at maiden claimers this time of year, you probably just go with the horses who have some experience. I think we've got 2 first-time starters in this particular spot that could be up against it against the experienced runners. Let's go to the top choices here in the second race. Now, the trends say you can get a price in this spot, but I do think the favorite is going to be difficult in here. Number 7, Didn't It Rain. This horse is dropping in class coming out of the races at Churchill and Ellis and Maiden Special Company. The one time showed up for a maiden claiming tag, ran a dynamite second, just got nailed on the wire by Omaha Beach, who's a 26% sire over the main track here at Keeneland over the last 4 years. Alstall Jr., one with his first starter of the meet. I'm going to take the 7 in here, Didn't It Rain, as the top choice, but the short price. So I'm not singling in a race like this with a favorite. So even though you take a horse like this on top and you say, well, the stats and trends are telling you that these kind of races produce a fair price, a little bit less than average win percentage for the favorites, I still think the 7's the best horse in this race and matches up on top. But that tells me in a race where the favorites don't have any kind of dominant edge and 6-1 prices are pretty juicy in these kind of races overall, that this is a race in the multi-race bets that I want to get some coverage. I want to get some prices. So while I have the 7 on top, number 2, Cloud number 9 is one I want to keep an eye on here at 15-1. I think we can get a decent price on this one. Cloud number 9, second-time starter in here, showed up at Churchill Downs in the debut, walked out of the starting gate, wasn't prepared for the start, finished up decent enough, and an 11-horse field, 15-1, was kind of a middling price in that big of a field size for a Brian Williamson barn that's not going to get bet typically. Arietta was aboard, so the horse was somewhat live on the tote board, had a decent work at Ellis Park back in August for that debut. It was a sloppy track, so I think there's a lot of excuses that can go to number 2, Cloud number 9. Now you get a good speed jockey in Jareth Loveberry riding. Hopefully this horse gets out of the gate a little bit better. I like the price in there. I think we're going to get a good number on Cloud number 9. The 8 also want to keep an eye on here, Northern Voyage, a horse by McKenzie. Peter Urton brings this one from an Ellis Park turf race, makes the drop from maiden special to maiden claiming. That's a pretty good move. The maiden special to maiden claiming drops here at Keeneland. Most of the horses in this race are coming out of the maiden special weight ranks. I think you can go deep in this race. 7, 2, 8 I've got as my top choices. The 9 and 1 also horses I've got mixed in there. So 4 or 5 deep in this race if you want to. I wouldn't be against anybody who stretched out and tried to get a little bit in here. With Didn't It Rain being top choice by 3 handicappers and Scott picking Didn't It Rain second, 8-5 in the morning line might actually go shorter than that. So look, the horse was 27-1 last time, 21-1 before that. Do you want to take 6-5 the way that we're handicapping this race? Probably a vulnerable favorite at 6-5. So I think it's a good race to spread in the multi-race wagers, whether you're playing the early pick 5 or the early pick 4 that starts in this particular spot. That's why we handicap ahead. We're trying to find out where the prices might be on a particular card and how we want to budget our money. To the third race we go. The pick 6 starts in here. The first of my 3 key plays on the card as well. This is a starter allowance, mile and a 16th distance for these runners. We've had 23 fall meet starter allowance route races like this. Favorites are 9 for 23, so they're hitting a little bit above average, right around average, 7-2 average price. So this isn't a race to go shopping for big bombs that often. We don't see too many horses come from far back in these starter allowance route races. The average winner only a length and a quarter off the lead, which is pretty up close when you're talking about a route race. And only 3 of the 23 winners were more than 3 lengths back after the early stage. So try not to get too far out of this if you can, and that's going to be a challenge for some of these. And on the outside, I'm hoping that Luis Saez takes this outside post position and tries to get up into the mix with number 8, Ultimate Strike. This is a horse who last year at Keeneland, you may remember this race back on October 16th. Ultimate Strike was involved in the infamous Luis Machado misjudged the finish line race. Remember that one? He was well clear, ready to break the maiden. This colt, or gelding back then, was far clear in a mile and an 8th race. Machado thought the race ended at the 16th pole, like a mile and a 16th. He was 5 lengths to the good. He eased up on the horse, ended up getting beat at the wire. This horse would have been out of the maiden ranks right then. He ended up breaking the maiden next time out. But we know Ultimate Strike likes to run here at Keeneland. Recent race was a little bit closer to the pace than what he's going to need to be in this particular spot when he was only 3 lengths back before pouncing and drawing off for trainer Norm Cassie. Norm usually has his horses geared up for Keeneland. You get Luis Saez, an aggressive jockey here. We know he likes to get over this racetrack. 2 starts at Keeneland. Again, he's got 2 second-place finishes, and one of them should have been a 5-6 length victory. So I'm going Ultimate Strike in here. We got a different rider than last year, expecting some different results. The 8, my top choice in race number 3. As for the other horses in this race to consider and to look at underneath, number 5, Overstatement, is a horse who was second here for 62,000 plus in claiming company back during the fall meet. Fits very well at this class level. Should be good, but a horse who sometimes shows some pace and sometimes comes from off of it. Coming out of these one-turn races at Churchill, the elbow start at Ellis, I think this horse will be a little bit closer to the pace. You get Machado, so I don't know. Do you want to take Machado in here with the 5, Overstatement at a shorter price, or do you want to take the horse Machado Misjudged, Ultimate Strike? Did you get the rider upgrade to Luis Saez at a higher price? I'm going 8-5 in this particular spot. Number 3, Laugh Now, Cry Later, is an interesting runner here. Laugh Now, Cry Later is the 7-5 morning line favorite on Nick Tamaro's morning line. This is a starter allowance, 30,000, and the condition is have the horses started for 30,000 or less and have not won 3 lifetime races. So it's not even just a regular starter allowance. It's kind of dual conditions. You can't be a non-winner of 3 lifetime, which means you can win up to 2, and you had to start for 30,000 or less at some point. Well, Laugh Now, Cry Later is a non-winner of 2. So actually running ahead of conditions, running against horses who already have 2 victories, looking for their 3rd. Now, you might say this horse was competitive in a very similar spot at Churchill back on September 12th. That's right, but got beat at even money. Why would you take a short price? Now 7-5 in the morning line. I can't bet a non-winner of 2 against non-winners of 3 and take 6-5, 7-5, even money last time. If Laugh Now, Cry Later wins, that's fine. You tip your cap and you move on. Has never raced over the track here at Keeneland. The Ghost Zappers are okay enough over the years. So Laugh Now, Cry Later could be the horse in here, but not at that price. I'm going to try to beat that one. I'm going to try to get through this race too deep in the multi-race wagers. We talked about a spread in race number 2. I think in race number 3, we tossed the 7-5 morning line favorite. That's what you want to do in multi-race wagers. You got to beat some favorites along the way. Let's take the 5 overstatement. Let's take the 8 ultimate strike and try to get through this one too deep. As for the other handicappers in race number 3, Laugh Now, Cry Later, top choice in here for Kim and Scott. Ultimate strike, my play. The 7 better in the horse at 6-1 in the morning line. For Tyler Gaffley-owned riding. Horse coming off a win at Hawthorne last time. Top choice in there for Tom Leach. So I think Laugh Now, Cry Later is going to take some decent play in here with 2 handicappers taking them on top. 7-5 in the line. Beaten last time at even money in a similar condition, but not beaten very far. Let's try to beat that one. Let's try to knock them off. I'm going 8-5 if you want to throw in Tom's pick in there. Tom Leach Price is never a horse that I feel good about tossing out. So if you want to add that one in, you're not going to get any argument from me. Let's go to the 4th race. This is the first of 2 back-to-back swing races. By swing races, I mean they're part of all the early and late exotics, races 4 and 5. Very important in the handicapping. I'd love to tell you I have a strong opinion on this race because when I'm setting up my day, I really want to focus on races 4 and 5. Right now, I can't narrow race 4 down very far for you. This isn't one of my key plays. This is a difficult race to try to sort out in here. Number 7, Tingus Pingus is my top pick. Mike Maker does a nice job with these 2-year-old maiden claimers going long. That's what we have here in these $30,000 maiden claiming mile and a 16th race. And Tingus Pingus comes off a race at Churchill Downs, running a decent 3rd. Maker started 10 horses in similar spots to this in the fall meets in the past. He's got 3 wins, a 2nd and a 3rd amongst those. So this is a horse I think can sit well here at Keeneland and be well spotted in this particular race. Tingus Pingus, number 7, my top choice, but at 5-2 in a race where there are a lot of good options in here, I'm not wild about that. The also eligibles are very important in this particular spot. I think the 13 Consequential, the 14 Stepnoski, either one of those 2 could be very effective in this particular race. The 14 Stepnoski for trainer Brendan Walsh, who had that awesome opening weekend at Keeneland. I would not be surprised if Walsh just continues that role. Remember, he tied for the meet's leading trainer title in the spring, so just the hot start at this fall meet for Brendan Walsh is a continuation of what he did in the spring when he had such a big meet there. 5 for 11 opening week for Brendan Walsh. If the 14 Stepnoski is to draw into this race, you make a solid argument for that one on top, dropping out of the maiden specials. Look for horses coming out of these maiden special weight races. In the 2-year-old maiden claimers that we've had at Keeneland in the fall meet, 36 of these kind of races, 26 of the 36 winners were horses dropping in class out of the maiden special weight ranks. So, yeah, I mean, you factor out the handful of first-time starters that have popped every once in a while. You don't want horses who are already in the maiden claiming ranks. That's a knock on Tingus Pingus. So if you're looking at the trends in this spot, maybe we got a bad favorite, and maybe I didn't do a good enough job in my advanced handicapping. I think this is a race to spread and try to get some extras. If the 13 or 14 draw into the race, they'll probably be my top choice in here. Number 1, Caprio is one who you can look at a price. Number 2, Unbridled's Map at 20-1. So the 1 and the 2 are prices 7, 13, 14, 1, 2. I got a lot of options in this race, and unfortunately, you'd like to be more narrowed as you get into these races with swing race like this that are involved in all of the multi-race wagers. I will say this about these maiden claiming route races that we talk about in the fall, 36 of them, maiden claiming 2-year-old routes, 18 for 36 winning favorites. So these races have not been off the wall. 50% winning favorites. you kind of get a 2-year-old who's pretty good on the class drop, and they just outclass him where nobody wants to go a 2-turn route at this level, and it's kind of what happens. I'm not sure who that standout horse is, though, on paper. Let's see what happens with the also eligibles and all the scratches and changes. Tune in tomorrow morning around the 11 o'clock hour after scratches and changes come out. I'll update my picks with a social media hit here on X. Also, too, you can get my Substack. I'll give you that right now. Sign up for my Substack, and I'll give you updated changes after the scratches every racing day at Keeneland, as well as handicapping hints from around the country, race of the week nationally, stuff like that, going into the Breeders' Cup as well. Sign up for Substack. It's a free publishing service where my email or my information goes right into your email inbox each and every day. Sign up for that because I'm going to need an update on race number 4 between now and tomorrow. Maybe the scratches will help us sort things out a little bit. Maybe we'll have some kind of premonition come down and tell us what to do in race number 4. Maybe one of you will help me out in the comments section here on what to do in race number 4. Let's go to the 5th race. This is the second of back-to-back swing races on the card. Race number 5 starts the late pick 4. This one's a part of everything, like we mentioned at the top. If you're just joining us, the early pick 5 ends in race 5. The early pick 4 ends in race 5. The late pick 5, it's the second leg. And race number 5 starts the late pick 4. Everything hinges around this spot, and there is a lot of speed in this race. 1, 6, 7, 8, 9, all kind of want to go to the front in this $32,000 level claimer. Mile and a 16th distance that we see in these races. We've only had 3 of the horses lead out of how many races do we have in this category? 24. So we have 24 claimers from $25,000 to $50,000 level going long in fall meets. So out of those 24 races, only 3 of them led after the opening half mile. The average winner is 2 3/4, almost 3 lengths back at that point. That's a fairly closer profile when we look at the main track at Keeneland. And so we talk about a race with the 1, 6, 7, 8, 9 all having early speed and a profile for a race where horses typically come from off the pace. That tells me we want to try to find a closer in here. I'm going with number 5, Trident Hill in this particular spot. Race number 5, give me the 5 Trident Hill, Trident Hit. Also the top choice in here for Kim. As for the other handicappers here in race number 5, Trident Hit, third choice for Tom. Why do I like Trident Hit? I think the winning race, if you go back in the past performances, with this horse ran at Oaklawn back in February. 5th by 5, 5th by 3, 4th by 2, 3rd by a neck, win by 2 under Tyler Gaffalione. That's the kind of winning trip that we could see here at Keeneland. Trident Hit has run twice at Keeneland, second in both career starts. The last race was terrible, going longer at Saratoga against much tougher competition. This is a horse who's typically reasonably back. He was 13-1 that day at Saratoga in a 6-horse field. That goes to tell you that race was just super tough, and he was over his head and got outrun that day. So I'm going to come right back with Trident Hit for Ron Moquette. That winning trip at Oaklawn, if we can repeat that in the past races here at Keeneland. This is one I like a decent amount in here. Number 5, Trident Hit. Number 6, Magnolia Midnight's probably the best of the speed horses in here. If you're going to take one of the front-running types, that one certainly, and the 8, Eastside Cool. 6 and 8 are the best of the speed, but from off the pace, it's the 5, Trident Hit. And the 2, Outlier, I think, can kind of maybe sit a little bit in here. Does go sprint the route, but I don't think the horse is going to be up near the pace in here and has run well at Keeneland over the years. This is a veteran making 87th career start, number 2, Outlier. So if you're going to try to get another closer in, 5 and 2. But I'm going to take kind of a bold single in here, but I like Trident Hit in this particular spot. And the problem is if I don't single with Trident Hit in this spot, then I got to start to break in some of the speed horses. And the 6 and the 8 look logical amongst the front runners. And then if you need another backup closer, now you're getting 3-4 times deep. And I'm not sure which of the speed horses is the right way to go in a race where 5 of them want to go. And we rarely see front runners win these kind of races at this class level and distance. So Trident Hit is kind of like, it's not my most confident play of the day, but with the way the race shakes out and you're trying to look at multi-race wagers, I think this is kind of one of those singles where I feel good enough about the horse that I don't want to quadruple the price of the ticket to try to feel like I'm safe and covered. You still might not be safe and covered with 4 in here because of so much speed in the race. It'll be volatile and you're not quite sure how it's going to shake out. So hold your nose, jump in the lake, and splash down and see what you get. Trident Hit, I'm going to take as a bold single in race number 5. That will obviously, you don't want to be 4 deep in race number 5 because if you're 4 deep in this race, that's all the multi-race wagers on the program. So, again, another reason, incentivize. If you have a horse you like, more than average, and I like this horse more than average. He's not one of my absolute best bets on the card, but I like him more than average, then you're probably best off just singling in this particular spot. Let's go 6th race on the card here. Races 6, 7, and 8 to wrap things up. This will be my second key play on the program. We've got a 1.125 maiden special weight here in race number 6. These are 3-year-olds and up. We've only had 13 of these kind of races in the fall at 9 furlongs on turf for this older maiden special weight cast. Of those 13 races, favorites have won 6 of 13. None of the winners have closed more than 5.5 lengths, but the average winner's 2 3/4 lengths back. So even though it's a 1.125 and it's farther, it doesn't just default out the back door to a huge closers profile. You kind of want to be stalking, not to the front, but not way out the back end of this race. Of these races, we have seen 8 of the 13 winners prep last time out at a 1.125 or longer. All of the horses who won in the 13 races raced at a mile or longer last time. So not the kind of spot at 9 furlongs as you would expect that you're looking for horses trying to make some sort of stretch out in these particular spots. And if you go down through the past performances, it's pretty logical. A lot of these horses have prepped at a mile or a mile and 5/16 at Kentucky Downs. In fact, this is really one of those trip handicapping races. You know, trip handicapping is when you watch a video of a past race and you try to decipher what happened, who had the bad trip, who had a good trip, who benefited, who may have gotten the short end of the stick and may have improved this time out. But it's an exhausting exercise to go back and watch videos on tons of horses over and over again. So if you want to do some light trip handicapping, races where a lot of horses come out of the same race can be very effective for you because you're going to knock out 2 birds with 1 stone, 3, 4, 5 in some cases. And in this race, 5 of the horses come out of the exact same September 7th race at Kentucky Downs. So you've got a lot of rematched horses in here, and you go down through the field and look at all those horses that ran September 17th at the mile and 5/16 trip at Kentucky Downs. Blast Furnace, the 3 is the morning line favorite, finished second in that race. Of course, the winner isn't back in here. The winner, though, is a horse, Chapman's Peak, that keep an eye because watch this race and then look forward to the weekend because this horse is going to run Saturday at Keeneland. Chapman's Peak. This is a little bit of an aside, so we'll get back to handicapping the 6th race. But something you want to make a note here if you're being serious about playing this week. Chapman's Peak is running in an allowance race Saturday in race number 7 here at Keeneland. Entries are already out for the entire weeks of racing. 5 of the horses that Chapman's Peak ran against are back in this race. So watch this race and see how the horses from that September 7th race that we're talking about, how those horses perform in this race might give you some sense of how tough a race that was when Chapman's Peak comes back and runs on Saturday. If these horses all run well and they run 1, 2, 3 in this particular spot, you probably will have a little more confidence in betting Chapman's Peak next time. Now, if 5 of the horses come back in this race and none of them run, none of them win, maybe none of them even run second, then you get to Chapman's Peak and you say, well, what did he beat last time at Kentucky Downs? And you might be against him on Saturday. So following the same circuit, following the horses and getting to know the strength of the schedule and competition is an important part of handicapping. So hopefully we can teach you some of those kind of lessons. Now, I've got 5 horses in the same race, all coming back. I went back and watched it. Kentucky Downs is difficult from a trip handicapping standpoint for me to project forward. It's such a different course. Turns are different. The undulations are different. Some horses like it. Some horses don't. I'm going completely against that group, and I'm going to go in for a fresh face in here. Number 10, Kicking Clear, is going to be my choice. Also comes out of a Kentucky Downs race, but not the same one. So I'm not just taking that same cast back and trying to figure out which way they're going to mish and mash this time. Kicking Clear is going to be the top choice in here for me. Also top pick for Tom. This one comes out of a 1.5 miles last time at Kentucky Downs. Again, we've seen these horses do it well, running at 9 furlongs or more. And running back at 9 furlongs here at Keeneland. So this one actually cuts back in distance. Ran here at Keeneland, 4th in a decent effort at a big price back in the spring meet. Brendan Walsh's barn is going super well after opening week. You get Tyler Gaffleone. I'm going to take my shot in here with number 10, Kicking Clear at 8-1. Certainly not a horse I'm going to lay on in single, though. I do think the 3 and the 4, Blast Furnace and Gold Sovereign, the 2-3 finishers out of that common race September 7th that the rest of these horses are kind of coming out of, probably make a lot of logical sense. So 10, 3, 4, Tom sees it the exact same way. Scott's leaning on the 3 and the 4 in this particular spot. 3 and 4 in the play for Kim as well. Also, the 7's one those guys are looking at and gals with Founders. And Founders is a fresh face coming out of a race at Saratoga. So, look, the top 2 finishers from that September 7th race are kind of mixed in with everybody. And then there's a couple fresh faces mixed in, the 10 and the 7. So that's kind of the way we see race number 6. And if you're looking at a multi-race wager, maybe you're looking at 4 deep. Top 2 finishers out of that common race, and 2 fresh faces, 1 for Brendan Walsh, and then the 7 horse out of Saratoga, where you get Irad Ortiz riding for Safi Joseph on the 4, or the 7 horse at Founders at 4-1. So maybe this is a good spot here to go 10, 3, 4, and 7, go 4 deep in race number 6. But I'm in here on number 10, Kicking Clear. I like the fresh face angle. I like the price we're getting at 8-1 in the morning line. We get anything above 5, 6-1 on the Walsh Gaffleone team, I'm all in. And I think you've got a reasonable number of horses to use underneath. So 10 over to 3, 4, 7 be a good way to attack this one on the tries and supers as well. And race number 6 is going to be my second key play of the day. Let's get the fresh face in there. Kicking Clear for the Red Hot connections of Brendan Walsh and, of course, Tyler Gaffleone. To the 7th race we go, Allowance Company, first level allowance, 7 furlong sprint race here. The first 4 allowance races of this fall meet last week were all won by horses on dirt at 5-2 or less odds. The allowance races were pretty straightforward, not a lot of big prices. Well, when we see these races here in the fall meet, that's not always the case at 7 furlongs in these entry-level allowance races. Favorites are 9 for 28, so just under 33%, slightly underperforming. The average winner, though, is 9-2, so that's dead on. 9-2 is the average odds of any race in America as by expectations. When you get 9-2, that means a race is about as fair as it can possibly be. Less than 5-2 means these races lean towards heavier chalk. Above 9-2, you start to say these horses kind of work in for prices. But if you look at the overall average of everything, 9-2 is right down Broadway of the middle, and that's what the average winner of these first level allowance races at 7 furlongs are. So what does that tell you? It tells you it's a good, fair handicapping exercise. Nothing crazy, nothing chaotic. We expect this to be a good, evenly balanced race. In terms of speed and closers in this race, very balanced what we've seen at this 7 furlong distance. Horses from New York have had 12 wins. Horses from Churchill have had 10. This is a good spot for those 2 obvious circuits producing horses coming off the dirt races, obviously in New York and at Churchill Downs versus necessarily turf race at Kentucky Downs last time out. 18 of the winners in the 28 races came out of a sprint. 10 came out of a route race. So you can, a little edge, obviously, to horses who sprinted last time, but you can certainly cut back with 10 of 28 winners, horses who have cut back in distance. I'm going for number 4, Pretty Sure in here. It's another one for Brendan Walsh, Tyler Gaffleone. We'll try to see if they can keep ringing the bell, and that's going to be my top choice. Pretty Sure at 6-1 in the morning line. What a pedigree by Improbable and out of Beautician, who was an outstanding mare. Beautician was a really good one for Kenny McPeak. Blinkers on for the first time for this one. Last time out at Ellis Park, things did not go well at the start and just kind of never picked up the feet. Brendan Walsh training here. Beautician, I talked about the mare, was a very good one for Kenny McPeak. But Brendan Walsh trained Pretty Sure, my top choice. 2 starts back at Ellis. That's the horse I like. That's the race I like. 4th place finish behind Reputation at 7 furlongs. That runner came back to win since then. 3rd start off the layoff. Good workouts in September at Churchill. Looks sharp and fresh for this. Couple 47s in September 17th. Back on October 2nd, last Thursday, that would have been a near bullet at Keeneland, 47-1. I think Pretty Sure is training really well. Horse to beat here in race number 7. Nobody else has the 4 picked on top. Pretty Sure is the second choice in here for Tom. Number 3, No What Ifs, is a horse who gets some love first or second by most of the handicappers in here. No What Ifs coming off a 3rd place finish at Churchill in June. Ran 2nd here behind Zadorsky back in the spring meet in the slop. Certainly a horse for Grand Forcer who's very consistent. Has been in the superfecta in 6 of 7 lifetime. And you get Jose Ortiz riding there. Jose off to a slow start at the meet. 2 for 25 there opening week. We know he can pick it up. He was right in the mix to the last couple races on the card for leading rider here during the spring meet. Interesting runner here. We've got 4. We got the 3 and also the 6 in here. Lady Go-Go for Tom Drury, horse who ran 3rd. He's making his really second start of the form cycle since coming back in June. Good effort last out. Second beaten, just 3/4 of length. This is a horse who fits pretty nicely, but I like the 4 on top in here. I think Pretty Sure, if we can get anywhere near that 6-1 price, I'm not going to go too deep in this race. I do think 4-3 definitely you want to use in the multi-race wagers. You could talk me into the 6. A long shot look maybe at the 1, Savara de la Sala. Luis Saez rides. He's the top 7 furlong jockey here at Keeneland. Rides it exceptionally. Will be able to get the rail. This horse has a good effort over the racetrack here at Keeneland with a win. 20-1 in the morning line because the class of the races has been less, taking on a little bit better competition. But You get Saez at 7-8, saving all the ground, 20-1 in the morning line. You could talk me into using the one in here, Savara della Sala. Certainly in the exotics, 4/3, 6-1, something along that lines. And really, if you want to get a little bit of cabbage on the one at 20-1 in the morning line, you'll get no argument from me on there with Saez going 7/8 of a mile. Pretty good betting race, actually, in race number 7. End of the 8th and final, we're going to wrap up this podcast with the $50,000 carryover in the Toyota Super High 5. The 8th race on the card is our final key play on the program. We've got some price shots on this card, and none bigger than this one in race number 8. We're going with the 20-1 morning line proposition, Sardis. It's Luis Saez. It's Mike Maker. Mike Maker off to a slow start at the meet. He was 0 for 6 opening week, but Saez aboard this one, a horse who ran second at Keeneland and made in special weight company back here in the spring meet. Comes off back-to-back wins. I'm not quite sure why we're seeing the 20-1 morning line. I think there might be a mistake in that. I mean, there are some other good options in here, but not 20-1 on Sardis off back-to-back wins. Won the maiden special at Ellis, won the first level allowance at Kentucky Downs, was 17-1 that day. Mike Makers won 9 races in this kind of allowance condition at a mile and a 16th in the fall, more than any other trainer. He usually has horses in these spots that fit well. I don't think we're going to get 20-1, but I think we're going to get something, in the neighborhood of 5 or 6-1, maybe 8-1. Cameo Performance, the 7 is 7-5 in the morning line. There's some stakes droppers in here that are obviously going to take some money. So maybe even with back-to-back wins, that 21 will be a price. But I would certainly take it if we're able to get it on Sardis. Cameo Performance, again, the morning line favorite. It's Brendan Walsh. It's Tyler Gaffleone dropping out of a good race. The Tappet Stakes last time out ran 3rd in there. The winner, Laganos, ran through the wind that day. Looked like a world beater. Came back in a big $1 million race, fresh out of that a couple days, maybe a week later, and almost won that. Laganos was in just razor form at Kentucky Downs. So that effort from Cameo Performance was a pretty good one last time, and Cameo Performance is a winner over the track as Sardis ran second over this track. So there's a little bit of experience in this race with horses who have run on the turf at Keeneland, but I use the word little because there's not much of it. I mean, you look through the running lines, English Channel, the 9 does have a win here at Keeneland on the turf. That being an allowance company back in April at 14-1. There's not a dominant local resume here at Keeneland. So, horses like Sardis coming off good races, Cameo Performance are expected to run well here. But give me the 5 Sardis. I'll use the 7, obviously, as well. The 8 Mountain Bear, Wesley Ward trains Victor Espinosa, Kentucky Derby and Triple Crown winning jockey, moving his tack to Keeneland. This is one of his first better mounts showing up here at Keeneland. Pretty good form for Mountain Bear, but I don't like that one so much on top. I would just go too deep in here, the 5 or the 7. Give me the 5 Sardis at the price, or the 7 for the Hot Walsh coming out of that blistering race last time out in the Tappa Stakes at Kentucky Downs. 5-7, Cold Exacta, turn it around a little bit as a backup play. Multi-race wagers too deep in this particular spot. So as you can see on the back half of this card, I think there's a lot of 2, 3 deep, no more than 4 deep situations. So I think it's pretty playable late sequence later in the day. And as we review and look with key plays in races 6 and 8, race number 3 also with a key play on the card. We talked about the 5th as a potential single in there with Trident Hit. We can get pretty economical ticket here on the back half of this card. Let's see if we can't do a little bit of damage. Based on the morning lines, it looks like we could get some potential prices. That's going to wrap up the podcast for tonight. We thank you for joining us tonight for, what is that, day 4 of 17 of the Keeneland Fall Meet. Again, post time 1 o'clock tomorrow. Should be fast and firm conditions, but I do think the racetrack is going to be a little tighter after that more than half inch of rain that we've gotten in the last day in Lexington. I think that'll tighten up the track, and horses with some early pace about them should do a little bit better. But like in that one race where there's 5, 6 horses that want to go to the front, pace will always make the race, even when the track is pretty biased. I mean, sometimes in an extreme bias, it'll overcome a big race shape like that. But you got a race where you got 5 or 6 speed horses in it. Look for your closers. I think the track will be fair in that respect, that it won't carry a bad race shape. But I do think it's going to play a little bit faster this week than it did last, thanks to that little bit of rain. So That's a wrap on the card. We'll see you tomorrow night, 8:30 Eastern, when we do it all over again. We'll preview the Thursday program for you. I've glanced through Thursday already. Selections up on the website for Thursday. Don't have the full blog written up for Thursday yet, but if you go to Keeneland.com in the expert handicapper section, you can get all the stats and trends for this Wednesday card. They are up and ready to go for tomorrow's program. Have a great day, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning.